Good evening, everyone. I guess we can start the session as people will keep joining meanwhile. Welcome to PsyConnect, where experience meets enthusiasm. I am Subham Thakur, your host for today's evening, and also I am joined by my co-host, Miss Ria Phatak. Together, we will take you on the fascinating journey of the world of unconventional learning models. Why this conversation, we simply aim to create an awareness about the alternative education system, where we will start by the basics question like what it is all about, who it's for, and we will also try to clear some misconception that exist for this innovative, you can say, approach to learning. And to help us unravel this intriguing subject, we have an excellent orator with us, Dr. Priyank Sharma, a name which is synonymous with an insightful researches and educational innovation. He carried you can say a remarkable academic journey. I am personally inspired by his you can say academic journey, and where he has transitioned as an engineer to the prominent figure in the field of education today. Currently, Dr. Sharma is a faculty member at Indus Training and Research Institute. He has also completed his PhD from the National Institute of Educational Planning and Administration, New Delhi, where he attempted to explore the grammar of schooling with the lenses of alternative education. This is the one of the reason I believe that he is a perfect fit for today's theme and today's session, because his thesis is based on the alternative education system. He has also hold a MPhil in education, and along with a master's in social work from TIS Guwahati. As a dedicated researcher, Dr. Sharma is also having a publication in Scopus indexed and UGC Care journals, and served as a manuscript reviewer for the international journals. Additionally, I have not mentioned that his role as an advisor to multiple educational organizations brings a practical and real world perspective to the academic community. That's not all. Honestly, if we were to list all of Dr. Sharma's endeavors and achievement, I think we will require an entirely different podcast to discuss about the same. So, without further add-on, let's give a warm welcome to Dr. Priyank Sharma. Welcome to session, sir. We are delighted to have you with us today.
Thank you so much, Shubham. That was really humbling. I don't think I deserve all that, but I'm glad because it first time after my PhD, I am going to talk about my thesis in this space. So it is of course personal to me as well. So thank you for the invitation, and I look forward to have a great conversation.
Yeah, it's a honor for us. Like it's a first time where you are discussing your PhD topic, and it's also personally interesting area of my. So please allow me to start the session, sir.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so to set the stage, let's begin with the most basic question: what exactly is alternative education? Why is this education termed as a alternative education? Is there is something different to conventional education system?
Yeah, I think it's an irony that it is called alternative because whenever we say something that it is alternative, we are saying that it is deviant from the dominant and possibly not something for the masses. And that's why I call it as an irony because we are not able to see how this education or various other education models are creating difference in the lives of students. So as soon as something is alternative, people turn their faces away from it because it's probably not for them. Now, why it is called so? What happened if I'm not going to go into the history of things, but just to give you an idea, earlier there were a lot of schools which were run for students who technically wouldn't fit in the conventional classrooms. So, because you know how traditional conventional schools are, they're very competitive and there is a certain pace with which learning happens. So all child, irrespective of their unique characteristics, talents or features, they all children have to go through the same course in a year, that every subject is earmarked, like this much amount of subject will cover in each year, and then you'll go to the next grade. So first, second, third, fourth, there's no system for personalizing it for students to take their, learn in their own pace. So we started having spaces which are trying to debunk this, mostly for students who had some disability or other. But slowly people started finding these spaces, a place where they would want to send their child. For many reasons, children wouldn't fit in the conventional competitive setup. So it turned to a place where now it is called alternative, because it is deviant from the conventional system that we have. But I really feel that, it's only an irony where that we consider something as alternative when we are still questioning whether the alternative is comparatively better, or how it is when compared to the conventional model of schooling.
So, as you mentioned, that the origin of this system was to cater the need of people who doesn't fit in the mainstream education. So, can we say this education system is not for everyone, or it's for everyone, or if not, then to whom it's like more considerable?
That's a very good question. I'll tell you why. Because let's say a student who is getting, high marks and scoring really good academically in a conventional school, it is still a question whether that school is a fit for the child. If even if you score well, even if you're academically well, that doesn't mean that then that is the school, that is the space for you over a period of time. Maybe that is there today, but tomorrow that may not be it may not be same. So you can always argue that probably, not irrespective of the performance, not every school is make cut out for every student. And here in India, in India specifically, you will see a lot of role being played by the parent, because all the decisions that the child has to take are taken mostly by parents. They are the biggest stakeholders. And anybody to consider an alternative education space is very difficult, because of course we don't know a lot about them and what does even happen in these schools. So to answer a question, I think any student per se who wants to experience learning on their own, at their own pace, or personalize it for themselves, I think that it should, the conventional is not the place, because it kind of put everything as compartments, and rigidity is the basis for it. Everything, where you come in a uniform, you sit in classroom, there are desks, you finish the period, there next period, next teacher, then 1 year, next grade, third grade, fourth, it is all very regimented. But it probably wouldn't suit most of the population, because at the end of the day, if you see how there has been a lot of studies on how conventional schooling has been curbing the creativity of the students because of the regimentization of learning.
Yes, sir. I'm audible. Hello.
Yeah,
Hello.
I can hear you.
Yeah, yeah. So, sir, as you mentioned about the consideration for this school, so can you please share a brief about, if let's say I'm a parent, or if I'm considering my student to get enrolled in such a school, so what factor I should consider whether the student, my child, fit for the school or not? Like, is there is any specific tool to measure their learning style, or what factor that parent can consider before making an enrollment in this school?
I think first the parent has to consider their own feelings about it. That's I. So my PhD was in a space which you can say is deviant from the conventional, because although they have timetables, they have periods, they have syllabus that is running. So it's not, a lot of people feel that alternative means it's totally loose ended. Students don't study, they are on their own. They sometimes they do, sometimes not. It's not really like that. It doesn't necessarily have to be a space which doesn't cater to discipline, or doesn't have syllabus or content or exams like that. There's nothing like that. It more or less depends on what kind of school learning experience you want to create for students. So first response is that if you look at it deeply, you'll see that every student will fit in. But as a parent, first question we have to ask ourselves is why are we sending our kids to school? I think that is fundamental question that every parent has to ask, because you will see in a lot of times education or schooling as a seen as a let's say as a road to getting them something, let's say, grand in their career, or earn a lot of money or get a good job. That is the fundamental basics, because we assume that a child who goes to school is the person who can, later get a job or get into a good work. But you will see every now and then that is so not true. You will see a lot, even if I talk about um, dropouts in schools, and we have umpteen examples of students who are doing amazing things even though they go to school or don't go to school. But it is more or less the fear of the parent that restricts the freedom of the child. Now I'll give an example from my fieldwork. So when I spoke to my PhD was in a school which was uh, unconventional in that way, that didn't adhere to the norms per se, which runs around schools. Now, there I spoke to a lot of parents there. So it was a usual discussion that parents. It's not like parents are thinking that, oh, my child cannot do well. Of course, there were parents who were like, my child couldn't see the face the competition and they were not fit. But there are also parents whose children were thriving in conventional schools. But they made a choice because they wanted their children to own their learning, not learn for the sake of the school, but learn for themselves. See what does learning mean for them. What do they want to make of it? And of course, now slowly you will see a lot of democratization happening in job market as well, where it's not the degrees but the skills which are being focused on. So I think as parent, we have to first figure out why do we want to send our children to school, and if it's a career which we are looking forward to, do we really believe in children? Do we really believe that our children can own their learning and make something out of their lives if they are agentive enough? I think as a parent, that is the bigger question. And any parent who has any doubt, I think one thing that everybody should do is go and visit some of these places. Be with them, because I spent 7 months and I was with them. I was eating with them, these kids, and we were talking. So these students came from all. It's not like they were only students from low socioeconomic background or high as such. Students came from all walks of life, and you will see a great mix of student owning their learning. What do they want to do? Suppose a child is let alone to decide, okay, what do you want to study? When do you want to study? Can children make that choice? Do they have the agency to make that choice? So there were children who were like, no, I don't want to make a choice, let the teacher decide. Yes, true, that is there are phases in children life when they need somebody to take decision, but there are also students who are like, no, I will take care of myself. And we want to make them more agentic, where they take these choices, and that's where they own their learning and go through this process.
Yes, sir. I completely resonate on the part where you said like parents can give visit to this school, because when we are reading in the books or just reading seeing on YouTube video or review video, then it's a completely different than the real life or the ground reality that the school is going to provide. Even like I had a visit of one of the school in Varanasi, Rajghat Recent School, so where I came to know many things that I wasn't aware about how it works. Let's say that there is one thing about the structure, like they don't have a very rigid structure of conducting the class. So yeah, this is very realistic and practical advice that parents can consider. And
I'll just
moving
add
to
one
next
more
one.
line.
Yeah, yes sir, yeah.
The truth is, there is a lot of insecurity in us, as parents. There is so much of insecurity where we think, okay, child has to study in the best school, otherwise nothing will happen. Then child has to score good marks, otherwise nothing will happen. Child has to get into an IIT, otherwise nothing will happen. And even though engineering CS, nothing will happen. Even though engineering is done, has to get into master, nothing will happen. Or get a good job, nothing. Every stage, there is so much insecurity that we have. We feel that children will not be able to do anything if left alone, if they have to take their learning on their own. We have to just push them, make sure that, okay, now this, then next, then next, then, and by the time it's like children has never even, you know, realized that they are learning. They are the ones who should make their decisions eventually. It's not a great side.
Yeah, making them a self you can say resilient person or reliant person. instead of making them dependent. Yeah. So moving to next question, if we talk about alternative education or schools, there are so many, you can say, educational philosophy in this alternative education itself, like Montessori, Jidumurti's, Aurobindo. So if a parent or the teacher, anyone is considering, so should they, you can say, prioritize any specific school, or all are same in their at their fundamental?
Okay, I think, see, there are schools who don't have a particular philosophy as well. They kind of go with mix of maybe Krishnamurti and Gandhi and Tagore, for example. So I'm not worried about philosophy as such. What we should see is, what does schooling really mean? When a child goes to some of the schools, what do they do? What is their day like? What are the choices that they make? At the end of the day, if the children are able to make those choices, if they are coming together in a group and deciding on things and making things happen for themselves, it is, see, any child. And okay, I'll like give you an example. When I work with small kids, I'll always say to the parents that if a kid is doing something with attention, that's a big superpower. School effectively destroys that attention, because let's say a child is drawing and very carefully and attentively drawing and is just so absorbed in it. Suddenly the period is over and somebody will say that no, you can't do this now, and something else you have to do. Essentially, if the child is able to put his or her concentration for some time in one place, you as a teacher, the first thing that you do is not to disturb the child, because you will see children, for them they move a lot. Like for example, they will painting now and suddenly they'll see some other children playing, they'll go and play with them, and suddenly if something else happens, they'll go just leave that and go and do something else. That's their, they are very curious, so they move, they they like to do different things, and they can't just sit and do something. However, if the child is light something and they are just concentrating, it's basic, I think, basic understanding that just let them be. Let, even if the child, so a child was making something with dough in one of the schools, talking to the teacher. Next 15 days, they let the child do what he or she was doing. They didn't disturb the child. Every day used to come and work with the child. If a child is able to put his or her mind to one place for a longer period of time, the attention span is higher. I can't tell you how much of a superpower it is. And but right now we are in a place where everything is 30 seconds, 10 seconds. The reels, the whole generation is all about attention spanning becoming low and low and low and low. And then how do we expect even children to have any attention span per se?
Hmm. Yeah, it's like giving a unconditional regard or the space where the child can experiment without being fear of judge or uh, interference.
Yeah, true. And letting, because letting the child be is probably the hardest thing for a parent to do. For they're like, for every time if the child is doing something, don't do this, do this. Every time you'll see somebody or the other, some elder telling the child to do not this but something else, not this but something else. But just if you just let the child and let him or her explore, do things at their own pace, take time with it, you will see that that concentration that they have, that focus that they have, that is what is going to serve in the longer run. That they, irrespective of what they do, even if a small kid is drawing and he's or she is making sure that the color is not going out of the line. I'm not saying that has to be done. No, usually children will not care, let them be. But eventually, like one of my friend's kid was like that, so she was she was earlier when she used to draw, she used to just draw and paint, like sketch it, and she will not care whether it spills out. But slowly she herself figured that she has to put it under the line, and it was on her. Nobody told her what to do. But when you keep telling the child that don't do this, don't do that, they don't discover things and they don't own it. That is where I think I keep saying this, that they have to own their learning. I'll give one more quick example. So one of this kid, his name, not taking his name, let's say his name is Akshay. Now Akshay, when he was a kid, his mother had a, let's say, a very good habit of reading. So she used to read a lot of books. Now the child saw the mother and the mother bought him some. uh, picture books. Now, child used to look at these books, and of course, at the start, child will not be able to read it, but he used to flip these books every now and then and look at them, and then mother used to read those books. Slowly, child picked up reading, and then when the child picked up reading, mother used to take him to library. So they used to both used to read in library, and he really loved books. Nobody, so reading was not a chore for him. It was not something which was like, I have to do, why will I do, I don't like it. No, it was something he was having absolute fun. It was a play. So whenever we say na, play based, I think we need to know what is play for the child. It could be anything. Reading is a play for the child. It could be anything. So for that child, reading was a lot of play and used to like, and every time he will get an opportunity, he'll just ask her mother, his mother, to read. So eventually, what happened was the child was put in a school for whatever reason. Earlier, mom was not working, but later she started working. Then she put the child in school. Now, this was a Montessori school, even though. But now that this teacher started telling the child that you read this, not this much that you read, come do make this. And slowly, very slowly, and maybe even faster, his love for reading got lost. Suddenly, reading became a chore. It's an exercise. It is something that he had to do. He has to work on it, not something he liked and was play for him. That's how you lose the curiosity, that learning appetite that the child had always had when he was born. But of course, we tend to make it difficult.
Yeah, like it's quite relatable. Even when I was not aware about this, you can say educational aspect, and I used to impose things on my younger sister as well. But when I started reading and getting my perception clear about the things, then I try to I took a pause, and now I just try to execute this in my first in my family. Then only I can like try to um, you can say teach in the education curriculum or as a psychologist. So yeah, I completely resonate with it. So taking it to much closer lens of the education curriculum, I have heard about the structure of the alternative education system is very free. Like they don't have a particular time key. They have to invest 2 hours of lecture on the mathematics. Yeah, 1 hour of they don't have a like such a period which we used to have in the conventional education system. So I would like to first have a you can say a detailed a picture of this structure. How does it look like? Secondly, if it is it true, then how does the teacher ensure the student is motivated and it inculcate a discipline in him? Because I have also and you can say heard from the parents how how they will develop discipline or self discipline and motivation towards the particular learning or skill learning.
Okay, again, good question. See, the thing is, where do I begin? I think first of all, it's a lie that anybody who thinks that alternative, they're like, oh, there's no timetable, there's nothing, there's no period, there's nothing. No, nothing like that. There are all kinds of spaces. There are spaces which are like free, where child is like, okay, do what you want to do, and it is up to you. There are spaces, but mostly the spaces are having timetables. But the difference is that children decide what they want to do. Again, as I said, it's mostly about ownership. So when you say discipline, and when they, when you say that, okay, they have to self-regulate themselves. The question here is that when they are they the ones who are making the decision? Only when you self-regulate, right? So when the child says, okay, this is what I'm going to study, then he or she is asked that, okay, now that you have decided, then you have to. Suppose I'll give you, there was a quilling class going on. Quilling is when you make some things out of threads. So this child made half of the piece within the cloth, and then he took the teacher and said that, no, I want to do something different. The teacher told that, now that you started it, you decided that you will do this, then you complete it. That is the feeling, because nobody else tells the child that, no, you should do it, you can't do it. You don't have to force the child. You have to tell the time that you have owned this. You have decided that I will study at this time, then you do it. That is something, that is also the culture of the place, where you don't have to just If you are in a school where everybody is just authoritatively telling child do this, then that's a culture. They will never learn to own their learning. They will be like, oh, somebody will come and tell. And whenever there's a free period, that's a free period. Nobody's like worried. Then you have to just do whatever you want to do. Because every time somebody has to be there to tell them what to do. But when the culture of the space is like where children are owning their learning, they are hustling, they are trying different things, then everybody is trying that only. Is the difference only is how is the culture of the space built? And when children see around them everybody owning their learning, everybody deciding, okay, I'll do those, I'll do that, then they also want to do it. See, children learn mostly from adults only, from people around them. uh, Whenever we say, we have to teach these skills, we have to teach this, let's say, socio emotional skills or whatever we want to teach children beyond the curriculum, we should always know the children mostly learn through actions, by watching, through behavior, not by teaching. So it's mostly caught instead of being taught. So when they see everybody around deciding and they taking ownership, they also do it. It becomes a norm. It is not something which is hard. Of course, having said that, I'm not saying there's never outliers. There are always outliers in all systems where they'll feel, okay, this will is not fitting for me. That is where the facilitator, the teacher steps in. Suppose, so I'll give an example of a student who had some family trouble and he was not in a position to take, charge of what he wanted to do. Teacher stepped in, told him that you finish this time. This is what you need to do. So there are times when you will have to step in and say that, okay, let me for this time, let me help you out in making this decision, which is fine.
Yeah, like now I'm more curious to know about the kind of a learning approach. Like you have given glimpses about the same, so I would like to know detailed about you can say the learning approach that alternative education model embrace, and if you can make it comparative to our conventional education system, then it will be really very insightful.
See, conventional, there are certain learning outcomes in every grade that the state or the board has set for you. Like these are the subjects, let's say math, science, SST, English, Hindi. This is the amount of content that you have to cover, and students have to study this by the end of the year. That's conventional. That by the end of the year, this is what you have to achieve in all these subjects. Every student should try to get 100. Whether you get it or not is different, but everybody should be able to do well. Standard for all students. Here, I'll give an example of one of the student in this school. So this student picked up when he was kid. He was, I think he was 10 or 12 years old. He was in the library. He picked up astrophysics book, and I don't know how he got interested, but he eventually got a lot in interest in the astrophysics. Now nobody in the school knew astrophysics, but he picked up those books, and there were, of course, these were not hi-fi astrophysics book, but at the child level there were some books related to him, and he picked up those and started reading them. And on his own he started reading a lot many books, and slowly he asked the faculty that he wants to know more, read more, and whatever faculty could help him, they did. Eventually he wrote a small paper about in this space and sent it to a conference in Egypt. He was not selected, that's a different thing, but everybody thought that he has found his calling. He was going to be an astrophysicist and he's just going to do great in this space because he took a workshop even for the teachers and the other students in the school later. But after some time he picked up Rubik's cube, and I saw him solving Rubik's cube in under 10 seconds. And he used to practice daily and figure out, and everybody, so much of concentration he has put in Rubik's cube and he used to do it. My point is that he had the freedom to make choices and excel as what those choices were. The only thing was expected from him was, you can make a choice of what you want to study, but you have to do your best there. You have to do it. Then you can't just say that I will not do or whatever. Yes, there are times when you switch, when you change, that is okay. But there are things that you want to achieve and you decide on it and you take ownership of learning. Now, there are certain also, like in this school, for example, there are also certain periods dedicated to, let's say, math, language, certain aspects of the subject which they wanted students to cover along the way. It's not like completely freedom. You only decide, nobody else is worried, we will not teach you or anything. No, not like that. They had allocated period for math, science, and English, which students only decided. And apart from that, there was a lot of free time which they used to do all of this thing. So in this school particularly, they did things, and they, but the thing was, from an early age, children used to move in a certain subject in their own pace. It is not like, first grade math, science, everything has to be done, and then second grade. Not like that. If somebody is really interested in math, they will just keep on rushing mathematics, and English they will take more time. So that was what the pace of learning looked like. That you own it, and then you decide the pace, and the child. There are times when teacher will come in and then say that, okay, you have to cover this much. You can't lag behind. This is something you have to make sure you finish. And I think it worked really well.
It's a more of a experimental, like trial and error,
For
involved in.
student do the trial and error. So they do trial and error, and there are certain foundations which are fixed by the teachers. Like, okay, this much at least every day you do. There is, it's not like conventional is totally out of the school. No, there will be certain parts they will fix that. Okay, as student, when do you want to study math, for example? But you have to study math
Hmm.
every day, or this much amount every day you have to finish. So it's mostly like that, that you teachers wanted them to study at least some parts of these subjects, go along the way, and then use these subjects in applying wherever they wanted to.
Hmm. Yeah, uh, I'm following you here. So, like following on the same, as till so far, I'm getting a view like the education curriculum is very, you can say, unconditional space or a free space where the student can experiment and evolve. So my question is now, it's kind of a comparative question. How if there is not a rigid structure or the testing, I've also heard that they are not having any scoring or standardized testing or examination till particular classes, like maybe seventh or sixth. I am not aware of the specific classes. So if they are not having any examination, how teacher or the parents make sure the student is growing? Because they, what criteria is there, is any other criteria on which they define uh, that the student is growing? Because eventually they will step out in the same world where there is a, you can say, the conventional system. So yeah, I would like to know your insight on the same.
So I think, see, teachers know what their students are. That's not, you to ask any teacher. Let's say they have a student who is not good in studies, and they score well. The first question that the teacher will have is, oh, did he cheat or what? Did he or she? Well, how did they score this much? Because there are a lot of formative assessments which are happening in the class. They'll ask students. There will be questioning. So teachers know their students. The I'm not in opposition of assessment as such, but I'm just telling you that it's not like teachers are completely unaware of their students unless the exam takes place. It's not like that. They understand their students beforehand. That is number one. Number two is exams. It's not like exam. There are small tests. There are small open book or closed book or unannounced. Not even like, they might even not sound like text. They might be asked to express their feelings in written, because teacher has to understand something. So these are mostly personalized tests to see where the students are. So it's not like there's no test. Of course, it differs from school to school. Some schools do have tests. They have standardized tests also, just to see where they are with the students. But there are schools which do not worry about tests, and they're like, okay, we know our students. We will find out how are they learning, and if needed, we'll come give some tests here and there to know how are they performing. But it's not really about the test. And eventually, this, I think, this idea where we all think that all students after school have to give the same exam, where they only have they the only way to prosper in their life is to crack a JEE or NEET, or to figure out some entrance exam. I think that is where I think we lose the diversity of our children, because it's I don't even have to argue about it. But what is this point of, see, think about it. 15 lakh students giving exam for 15,000 students, no, 50,000 seats. Is there any point of it? Irrespective of the best education system that you have, 14 lakh 50,000 have to fail. The design of the system is such. So the question, so somebody is telling me that, oh, we need to have more colleges, more universities, more, more branches and things like. But my question was, how come 15 lakh students are applying for a same course of engineering? What is this? What is this idea of where everybody is thinking that engineering is the only way? What are we even doing with our kids? Because the way we have diversity with our students, that is how there is a lot more career diversity as well. And but the only challenge here is that, of course, a lot of us don't have the resources. We think that these are risks and we don't want to take it. And I'm not denying some element of risk there, but more or less I want you to think about that mostly students eventually even fail then also, because you'll see a lot of these students first preparing for JE NEET, they will not clear it. 1450 will fail, there's no doubt about it. Then some random college they will go, and then they will come out of it, and then again they'll be preparing for some other exam. And mostly in India, you know how many people prepare for government exams. So the truth is, it's not like the convention is serving you better. It's, yes, there are a handful who will get into a college, let's say, and they will do good. But the other side, you will see there are more than people who are coming out of it, trying different things, trying out internships, apprenticeships, getting into different fields. Somebody is going to photography, somebody is trying other things, and make a career out of for themselves. Can we believe in them? Is the question that we have to ask. I think the only uh, as somebody who's, I don't know, the day I am a parent and I have to look my child, the only thing I'm looking for is the child deeply interested in something and pursuing it. We don't know how it will turn out, because even I asked some of the parents in the school where I did my PhD, and I used to ask them, are you not worried? What do you think? What will the child do? So they're like, we don't know. We don't know what they will do. And we are worried. It's not like we are not worried. And there is, at times we'll question our decisions, but we somehow feel that, you know even with that fear, it doesn't matter where you are, we always had that fear. That insecurity is always there. In the convention system also, we were worried that whether they'll clear the exam or not, or what will happen. So that worry is going nowhere. However, we think that if they're owning it, they're trying it, they will eventually find a way. They will. We don't know what that will be, but it is fine. The only solace probably the conventional thing gives is that everybody knows that, okay, they'll be an engineer. But that's not also this so untrue. That's not true at all, because you don't know. Most of the people who even finish their engineers leave the field like me, not even cut out for engineering by far. So I think there are insecurities in every place, but we just have to have the belief that yes, eventually we'll figure out. Children will figure out, and it'll not as bad as we think it to be. Because whenever somebody take a divergent path, even when I quit my MNC job and tried different things, I tried different courses, tried to learn different things. I never knew what I'll do. Honestly, my parents didn't know what I'll do for 10 years. They're like, kuch karega ki bhi nahi. They have no idea what she become. But I think that's the beauty of the journey, right? That's the uncertainty that you have to live with. That's what makes this whole thing so interesting and livable. When I look back, I may not have a lot of things, or may have, but I definitely have stories. There's so many stories to tell about what my journey was looking like. And so this whole idea of dreading the uncertainty, I think it's coming from somewhere. But it doesn't, you don't lose it wherever you are. And we just have to see how it goes, because as Steve Jobs said, we can only connect the dots backwards, not front.
Mm, yeah, I completely. It's like personally relatable to my life journey as well. And I guess the finding our interest area is required of patience. And in today's society, I think the patience is missing, and impatience is dominating. That's the reason, majority are insecure and they take a impulsive decision for their career, or they are governed by the external factor instead of governing by like deep passion or deep interest. or figuring out our journey, because we start comparing with other people around me, like he is pursuing that btech and I am just sitting or exploring. If I just say to my you can say batchmate or in my family that I am figuring out what to do, then they will pass some you can say mocking comment, or maybe not that supportive. So that's a real concern and issue, I guess.
True. For example, when I started, I after my engineering, I got led with questions. So my first question was that how come in my 12 years of schooling, I never knew what I'd want to do with my life. So first instance, I'll go and work with the same kids to know how are they making their career choice, because I could never understand what I want to do in my life. So I did my social work counseling and then worked in this space, career guidance space for a year. And then again did another course to understand human psychology. I did career guidance for NCRT. And later the second question which came up was, okay, this is a gap that in the education system, but why is the education system like this? So I thought, let me understand that. So I did an MPhil in education policy where I understood the whole history and everything. And then I like, okay, why is the grammar like this? And I did my PhD. And I don't know what I'm doing tomorrow, but I know that the questions have you know brought me to a place which is for now. I don't know how, but it kind of gives me more. Let's say all of these questions keep pushing me hard. I keep asking them and I keep trying out different things. I don't know how else to. It's very hard for me to see that I finish my degree, get into a job, and I'm not saying it is. I know there are people who don't have the privilege, because for me, I had this privilege that I was not. My parents were not dependent on me. I didn't have anything to give to my family. That was the biggest privilege I had. That they were like, okay, if you're on your own, enough. And I could earn. My needs are very limited, so I could earn minimal and I could do well. And then when I used to travel, I used to go and live in other people's houses. That is also something which I've done, because I feel, the technically I feel the whole hospitality industry is built on distrust. I don't understand how can there are when there are humans everywhere. Why do we even need hotels? What is the whole point of it? To have hotels everywhere, because it's all humans. We don't trust each other. So I'll just go in cities and I'll ask somebody that I'll put on my social media if somebody can give me a room. But every time somebody has told me that okay, come and live with us. And I will not say, probably as a male I am more privileged, but it's still not less scary, I would say. But I just thought that why not? Why would I spend money in hotels? So as much, it's not like I've not stayed in hotels, but when I used to travel alone, it's more like, why wouldn't we? I think we have all created structures and systems which are like humans only distrust each other, like only cynicism. The whole objective has become that you become more and more cynical per se. It's very, very sad.
Really, like I deeply resonate with whatever you are saying. I see like I am facing a mirror, whatever you are saying. Yeah, so not deviating from the topic, as you were talking about, we were talking about the challenges that a student faces. So my question is, eventually, if a student has to step into this conventional system only, then there is 2 to 3 questions to the same segment. First question is, what kind of challenges that a student can face after the 12th, because they haven't exposed to such a scoring system, the competitive environment, and drastically they just step in into such a competition, and that is a reality that they can't avoid. Second question is, uh, if is it so, like if they have to step in this they have to work in the corporate or in this environment, then what is the use of getting schooling from the alternative education system, if they eventually going to step in and live in this world, whether it's create any difference in way of living to themselves or the people around them, or anything other.
Okay, so somebody asked Krishnamurti this question that how do your students do when they switch from your school to a conventional school? So Krishnamurti had answered that they are disgustingly successful. To unpack that, he says that they are very successful, but I'm totally disgusted by it because they are. So to answer a question, first of all, I think any, it doesn't matter which education system you are, I still don't understand, because when you say corporate job or anything, you could pursue it through any means, whether it is alternative, so it doesn't matter. You are getting some education and then you go and pursue it. So there is, when you say use of education, you can question anything then. Like you can use there's use of conventional also, how, or unconventional also. But to take a deeper meaning out of it, I think s- it's not necessary that students who go through any system stick around, and it's just about that job or corporate job they have to take over. I think students do try out different things, and this they owning and trying out different thing is the fundamental of whatever they want to do. And this is a biggest, I think, gift that an unconventional space gives you, that they tell you that you are the owner of it and you can try different things. And this is something becomes a part of their life, even when they tomorrow do a job. Doesn't matter, even though do a conventional job, doesn't matter. It's not like any job is bad. See, 9 to 5 is a great job for most of us. This, it is running the economy after all. But the idea is not to say that some job is good or some job is not. The idea is say that they are making this choice. Are you conscious enough? Are you consciously saying that yes, 9 to 5 is the job that I want to do? It fits me. Great. Is that clarity there? That's it. If you are making those choices with clarity, that is what I'm trying to hinge your understanding upon. If you are doing it because everybody is doing it, that's how life is. You're doing it because that's how life is, then I'll give an example. Like when I started traveling, so I've traveled different parts of the country. I used to go and visit these different alternative spaces, and so as to go from one place, travel in some bus or and go to some other place. In every space, I used to find somebody to live with, so that I can cut down cost on living and eating. Now, when I go to this, used to go, and so I met a lot of fellow travelers. So I met somebody who didn't have a house. This guy from some abroad country, I don't remember his name, but he was like he's been traveling, he's on the run. There's no particular home to him. And there are other fellow travelers who were trying. There was a girl who had taken a break after 12th grade, and she was teaching in some remote school in Tamil Nadu. So you see that there is other side of things also. It's not because when you are stuck in that zone and you are making those choices, you will only see that okay, this is how life is, 9 to 5, and you do it, and you're not very consciously aware of what and all the world has to offer. And when you see it and then you make a choice and you're like, no, no, for me this is the fit, I think that then great. I think the idea is to be more aware of what is happening in the world. What are the choices that you can make? What is there something more that you want to do or less that you want to do? What do you want to pursue? I think it's more being more conscious and nothing else, not really saying that you do 9 to 5 or not.
So it's in other words, we can say like mindful about where he or she is involved, rather than governed by such maladaptive tendencies or pattern. Okay, all right. So the entire conversation reminds me of my own education school days, like the challenges I faced, and also I also assume or believe that the students might face so many challenges, whether it's related to, you can say, they felt unheard due to the different learning style, or the distinction or discrimination based on the grade they scored. So there are so many experiences. So now we are like switching this conversation to quite a, you can say, a different mode, where I will invite my co-host to share if she recall any of her experience from school days, so that we can have some follow-up question on based on such experiences. Yeah,
Hello,
Ria.
everyone. Am I audible?
Yeah, we
Yes,
can.
Ria, you are audible.
Hi, Ria.
Hello, everyone. Hello, sir. Thank you for such insightful session so far. It's really very important to understand about a topic which is not only misunderstood but has a lot of misconceptions, and you've been able to do it very finely. And I would like to say that you've actually brought the central theme of alternative education here, which is knowledge with fun. So, thank you so much for that. And if I have to recall some of my experiences or share something about my school days, I would like to say that many of my friends, they were very creative and had a lot of potential, but they would never been able to speak up and participate in different activities and events like co-curriculars that happen in school. So I was wondering if alternative education can ensure inclusivity and especially catering to students of diverse backgrounds. If you could answer.
I think only alternative can cater to. Again, I don't want to use. It's very ironical, but the conventional has a very strict, as I said, compartmentalized education. Like it is like one, two, three, four, five grades. This much subject, this much you study, this homework, and so it can never be individualized. If you want to take cater to the diverse needs of children, where they have their own individualized lesson journey, learning journey, then you will have to look up to these spaces where they let children have that say and try on different things and try their own learning journeys. Build that map with the teachers, not just teachers saying that this now, this there.
Yes, sir. And also, there's this problem with conventional teaching where teachers generally have favoritism and biasness towards particular students. If I go to psychology, if I use psychology jargon, it's basically Pygmalion effect, which happens where teachers, they think that certain students are more capable, so they are biased towards them. So like does this alternative education ensures equality among learners by the teachers especially?
Okay, so first of all, this is more teacher centric problems. It's not like, it can happen anywhere. It's not
Hmm.
necessarily a conventional or unconventional thing. There are teachers who are not good at their job, and it can happen anywhere per se. The only difference I would say is that when you have a smaller setup, like most of these alternate spaces are small in nature. This guy who runs this space, he used to tell me that schools should be slow and small. To tell me this, that we are in a world where everything is fast and big school, very fast, everything happening fast. But schools
Hmm.
should be slower and smaller spaces where we, are able to give students the voice and choice. So since these are small places, it is easy to identify if something like that is happening. So that we will find that if there is something any mishap happening, if the teacher is not doing well or something, it's easier for us to identify because the spaces are smaller and so the chances are thin there. But otherwise, there are good teachers, there are not so good ones, and that is everywhere.
True. Also, sir, a question popped in my mind that is there any drawback of this system? Like, there's always some drawbacks to every kind of education system. So, what could be the drawbacks of this system?
So now the thing is, in this space there's a lot of diversity, now. So like one school, for example, has a timetable, another school doesn't have it. Like in conventional, everything is fixed in terms of the
Hmm.
grammar is the norms and the way they lead it. Basically, when I say grammar is schooling, I'm meaning the norms, the convention, the rules that govern, that structure the schooling experience. So all the same, like there are periods, schools, uniforms, buildings, classrooms, teachers coming and going, that's all the same. So it's like you can talk about and at scale that these are the problems these spaces have. But here it's not like that. There's no fundamental structure to it. So it's not like
Hmm.
every school has this and so the problem is this. But as you said, there are problems everywhere in this space also. Like in the space
Hmm.
where I was, for example, there was a problem that when the learning happened, now these students were from different linguistic background. So it was hard for them to find Telugu teachers, and they were not, for example, the local language was Telugu, but students were not ready to learn. So how mother tongue is very important for children to learn, that is there. But that was difficult for these teachers to cater to because some of them didn't know Telugu, some of them, they were also students who were not from that background. So to have a space where you can cater to those basics, because when children are really young, it's good to have learning in their own language. So this was one thing I found there, but that's not true for other spaces. As I said, it's very varied. So every space has their own challenges.
True. Also, sir, if the parents choose to send their child to such system, they would be bombarded with a lot of questions, especially in Indian setting. So, how do they battle these questions?
Yeah, I think anything. When I chose to leave my job and from engineering to and go and do a social work course in masters in social work,
It,
from that
it would
moment,
have been a hell for you. I'm so sorry.
from that moment, I'm sure that my parent had to suffer like anything because
Exactly.
everybody was constantly asking and they would blame like um, I'm not going deeper there, but they would always say that my parent did a mistake. It was their mistake that I was being a deviant child who kind of lost his path, and they as a parent had to guide me and bring me on track, and they couldn't do their job. So it was always that
Hmm.
narrative. So irrespective whether it's a school choice or any choice which is not conventionally understood, right? I think any choice will
Hmm.
always be questioned. So I think how much do you save yourself? This is like that. And so, and to to look for an answer, I think there's no answer. There's no particular mantra that I have that you tell this. Only time can tell. When I made
Hmm.
good or let's say decent name for myself, everybody then knew. My parents suffered for 10 years. Now nothing can be done about it. It's like they had to face those questions. Now everybody knows where I am, so it is okay. That's what some things you'll have to parents have to can't answer, can't find a mantra to. They'll have to figure out their own that how do they navigate this.
Okay, thank you so much, sir, for beautifully answering the question. I hand it over to Shubham again.
Thank you.
Okay, sir. So we are just moving towards the end, as we were Ria was were having the question on the parents, and so I would like to ask a follow up question. What advice would you like to give to the parents if they are considering to choose this education system or this schooling for their kid? Um how what factors do they consider, and also what question they can ask to themselves and to their child?
I think first thing I want, if I was talking to parents directly, I would tell them that you don't have to do it. You don't have to send your child to bed. Don't start with thinking, oh, I have to send it. Is it should I not? Don't think about at the start. Don't worry about it. As a parent, first go and visit those spaces. You in your vicinity, is there a space where you can send your child? First, you have to figure out that. And if you have, or if there is a place which is far, but you can shift. I don't know how it will work for you. But if it is, then go and spend some time. Go and see how it happens. What do they do? What do they think? Talk to them. Talk to kids there. See what is it. What do any and every doubt? Ask them. Talk to them. Just be there. See how is learning different there. Don't even think about that. I have to make a decision. Just be and see and observe. A decision will come to you. It's not like, and eventually, even if you decided, no, no, I'm going to send my to my conventional, no, that's okay. I'm not. As I said, you should be consciously aware of your choice. That is the most, and that is can only happen when you know, when you see, when you travel, when you understand. At least that much you do. That okay, this is how happening. This is when a student from a, let's say a student who has some learning disability and student doesn't sit together and learn, what happens that time? In conventionally, you'll never find something like that. So small things you will see happening in different setups. So I think today the problem is parents don't have time. But so my only request, if you can find some time here and there, just start visiting, start knowing about these spaces, see if you would want, and eventually if it comes to you, if you want to do it. Don't think that you have to be 100% sure in everything. The second point would be this. Don't think that, oh, it has to be a yes or a no. Try it. If not, there you can always go back. I've seen children trying. I've seen a child first in alternative, then conventional, then in alternate, then conventional, then again went to college. So in 11th they came out because they didn't like it, and then they finished their schooling in alternative only, and then they went to college in a conventional college. So it's like that. You can try out different things. And it is not like it costs a lot. It's not like that also. So I would say be open, that's it.
Hmm. Yeah, it's like worth considering, I guess. Even I'm looking forward to volunteer as a, you can say, educator to one of the school for my exposure and understand the in-depth understanding of this education curriculum. Yeah, and yeah. So moving towards the final concluding question, which might be based on your maybe experience, as you have transitioned from like engineer to educationist. So I would like to know if today, if you could get a chance to implement or bring a one radical change in the education, what would it be?
Okay, I am not a person who believes in a lot of a single changing things, Um, Not really, may not be, but yes, maybe what has happened after RT, and this may a lot of people may not know about it, but Right to Education Act, a lot of these small alternative spaces were closed down because of the ruling that every child has to go to. Now, whoever goes to alternate space is going with the idea that homeschooling because it's still allowed, so homeschooling they are doing. I think one thing we have to figure out, and if it is a change or not, I don't know, but figure out is how can we don't have to create. It's not because government has to think about the quality. For them, any alternative space is not a scalable model. They can't scale it. They can't have thousands of children, and they have to think about at the large scale always. And that is the problem that they are facing. But I think that when we decentralize it, when we bring it down and down and down, we have to figure out a way for us to creating such spaces, slower, smaller spaces for children from all walks of life. And when I say this, why I say all walks, because fundamentally today our education system is that irrespective of the school, whether you talk about a private elite school, a middle, let's say private school, or a private affordable government, any school, there are only one section, students from one section, one background who will come and be in that school. If it's a government school, they are mostly who come from low socioeconomic background. It's a private elite, then mostly students who have uh, whose parents have a lot of money. So it's like that. Irrespective of the school, there are only one section of students going to that school, and I think that's hugely detrimental for a society because that fundamentally breaks the bond that children can have cross sectional with children from different backgrounds. And we have to find out a way where children from all walks come in and listen to each other's stories. When a child who doesn't have resources and child who have a lot of resources, when they hear each other's stories, what do they make? How do they make meaning out of it? Is it really about they thinking, oh, this is child is fit for nothing, or they're saying that, oh, this child is egoistic? What, I don't know. But children don't have biases at the start. We create those biases for them. We can never come together as a community, as a society, as a country, if we are having this stratification in our schools. So if possible, I would want to for us to have spaces where children from all walks of life, all socioeconomic background, come together and learn. That's where I think we can create a more harmonious space.
Yeah, yes, sir. That's really a thought-provoking idea. This remind me of one of the school model, which is, I guess, in Bangalore, if I'm not wrong. It's a private school, so it was the initiative was I guess taken by one who is passionate about education. So he has created the setup in the same ground where he is having a two, you can say, the board, like maybe the CBSC or state board and the ICIC board. So where there is a different fees structure, the elite student from the elite family can join the ICIC, and people those who are having a, you can say, low learning ability or less privilege, they can join the state board. So this assure and they have also planned some activities or where the students from different boards can exchange their ideas and interact. So this remind me of this school model. It's really very thought provoking and it is running very successfully. Yeah.
I'm glad. I hope there are more such spaces where children, because I'm not sure with the example, because again there are different boards. It's not easy.
Yeah, yeah. Hmm.
Like in the space where I did my PhD, I could see that happening. Children from all walks studying in the same room. You will still say
Hmm.
clusters there. You will still say children making friends with the children of their
Same
background.
stream.
That also is there. But again, that's how you slowly, as there's a famous TED talk, which is called "Danger of a Single Story." I think that is so true. That when you hear the same story, the same problem, you don't even know how big the world is. How do you even relate to each other? I think
Hmm.
that's important.
Yeah. So now I guess that we can open a space for the questions. If anyone from the audience, the participant, if they are having any question or dialogue to discuss, then we can discuss it. You can raise your hand, or you, if you are comfortable, you can type your question in the text box. I will read out it for you. Any question, any more thought, or maybe any experience or any reflective question that you would like to share or discuss?
Too attentive of a crowd we have. Okay.
Yeah, so here we can, I guess, conclude it. Or if you have any further question or reflection, then you can also connect with sir over the LinkedIn with Priyank Sharma by just entering the Priyank Sharma name over the LinkedIn, and you can discuss with him. I hope it's okay with you, sir, if I just share
Fine.
it.
Thank you.
Okay, so saying thank you so much, sir, for your valuable insight and time. I guess we did a justice to the objective we had, like creating awareness and the clarity about the alternative education system. And I am looking forward to have a. You can say I have personally have so many questions to discuss, which might be more broader. So I'm looking forward to have a second part of this where we can dig deeper into the alternative education system. Maybe that might be more, you can say, a philosophical or something which will cater to the broader audience or like research point of view. So yeah, thank you again for your time. The entire conversation felt like peeling a onion, like you cover a layer one by one of a complexity and clearing the concept of alternative education system. So thank you everyone for joining, and thank you, sir.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much, Shubham. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you, everybody.